Welcome to the May edition of Consumer Concert Artistry. And this topic is through the eyes of the composer. And I'm so excited today to share a conversation with composer Robert Sheldon. He's composed music, wonderful music for all levels. He's an educator as well as a composer, having taught in the public schools, and he served on the faculty of Florida State University. And one of the many compelling things about his music is that his pieces provide great springboards for metaphor and story and imagination. Robert Sheldon's music is performed all over the world, and he sold over, get ready for this, friends, 3 million copies of his books and compositions. I'm so privileged to have you share your time with our Consumer audience today, and I look forward to your insights. Take it away.
Well, good morning, Paula, and thanks for inviting me. And it's such a pleasure to just have a chance to see you and visit with you this morning. And I appreciate the opportunity to share some music and some thoughts about writing music. I think there's obviously when you're writing a piece of music, you can write something that's highly programmatic, and you can write something that's not programmatic at all. And it doesn't mean that one piece is better than the other, they're just different. In pieces that are not programmatic, I've always found that as a conductor, you kind of create your own program anyway. You kind of, what is it you're really seeing and feeling in this? You know, it might be, you know, even if it could be a Mozart transcription or something that is not programmatic at all. It's just, you know, like what do they call it? Music concrete, you know, that kind of thing, just music. But you still kind of have your own feelings about it, and you share that with the ensemble, and then you create something special out of it. Sometimes programmatic pieces have a lot of some of the ones that I've written in particular may have some hidden nuances and things in them that need to be revealed in some special way, either through a program note or just through the imagination of the ensemble and the conductor, which is a big part in, well, this is what we're really talking about here. It's really just imagination. Whether you're imagining a program and coming up with your own ideas, or you're playing something programmatic, but you still have to use your own imagination to be able to bring that to life. And if I could say anything to the wonderful young people that are playing in ensembles and high school and college bands, middle schools, you know, all over, is just to use your imagination. And what does this feel like to you? And how can you bring that to life to the audience, and give conductors permission to use their imaginations to shape the piece and make it their own, because that's really what it is. I think about music that makes it so special is we borrow this music, we listen to someone's music, we play their music, but then we process it in a way that's so highly personal, and then we begin to own the music. It becomes part of who we are. But I think we also can leave our own personal imprint on that music as we perform it for audiences and share it with the ensembles. So the piece that I thought I would share with you this morning, Paul asked me to pick a piece and just kind of go with it, is a new piece that was just premiered not that long ago, last October. And it was a piece commissioned by the St. Louis Wind Symphony. And the person who was actually providing the commission, was an aficionado of Route 66. And he and his wife had transported themselves back and forth from Chicago to Los Angeles on Route 66, or as much of it as you can still drive, many times, and had taken thousands of pictures, and way too many pictures perhaps, but many, many pictures. And that's what he wanted this piece to be, was a musical journey on Route 66. And the pictures he took were wonderful. And after speaking to him, I realized he had organized his pictures into categories. And I thought, that's it. That's how this piece needs to come together, is through categories. I don't think it can be a through journey from Chicago to Los Angeles. It kind of needs to be categorized. So that's the way the piece is done. And if you're interested in following along on the score, or hearing the recording, or even seeing the YouTube presentation I put together using some of the slides that the commissioning party put together for this, you can see all that on my website, which is robertsheldonmusic.com. And if you go to, you search 66, it'll come up, and you'll see the program note. You'll see a place where you can listen to the recording. You can view the sample score. So if you want to do that while we're talking through it, you can do that. And then right underneath that is a YouTube video that you can actually press and play, and it'll show you all of the wonderful pictures that he took. So let me just talk to you a little bit about the piece. So I like to play around with ideas to get me started, to get me inspired. And I'm thinking, Route 66, Route 66, how are we going to start this? And it was like it was staring me right in the face. 6, 6, intervals of a sixth. Okay, oh, 6/4 time. Yeah, well, two intervals of a sixth and 2 6/4 66. Okay, so it's starting to come together, and that's where it happens. So then I got, am I going to start this in Chicago or am I going to start it in Los Angeles? And I decided I live in Illinois. I'm starting it in Chicago. So, and very many times I've seen that sign, the beginning of Route 66 there in Chicago, and I thought that's what I'm going to do. So the opening kind of brings to mind Chicago traffic, a little bit of the Chicago jazz era. If you remember when Route 66 was really important, in its heyday would have been in the 40s before the interstate highway system came into existence. And then following this trombone bliss, again, traffic, Chicago jazz, I wanted to get into a feeling of driving your convertible through the countryside of Illinois, top down, hair blowing in the breeze. Those of us that still have hair, and just kind of enjoying the freedom of that. And to be able to provide that, I put a lyrical melody over a highly rhythmic accompaniment. Let me just give you an idea of what a little of that sounds like. And then it just settles into the ride, which I think is just sort of a pleasant ride through the countryside on Route 66. So the next part of it, in terms of the compartmentalization of the pictures, he had lots of pictures of neon signs. I mean, many, many pictures of neon signs, which were a big part of Route 66. That was part of the thing that made it so wonderful. And these signs were divided into basically diners and drive-ins, that kind of a thing, and nightclubs, and also hotels. Those were basically the signs, and some of them are still available, and they're just wonderful. So this first section that I called Road Trip, The Journey Begins, is what you just heard a little bit of. And then the second section, I call it Neon Nights, Signs of the Times. And of course, Glenn Miller was on everybody's radio. And when we think of 66, Route 66, most of us still probably think of the hit tune, Route 66, which is copyrighted, so you can't use it. So I thought, well, if I write something that is a little bit reminiscent of the tune Route 66 and I put it in a Glenn Miller style, that would kind of be what people would be listening to on their car radios as they're driving Route 66. So that's what I've done here, using big band voicings and the idiomatic rhythmic interplay. So you get the idea. Great fun. And I should also mention, just as an aside, this was written during COVID.
Mm.
And I didn't realize it. Paul, it was interesting. I didn't know this until after many months later, actually, till I wrote this piece. I'd been doing a lot of writing during COVID because I had a lot of commissions. I would contact the people and say, "Are you sure you still want this?" And they'd say, "Oh, yeah, we want it." So I was writing a lot. And then this piece was the next one on my calendar. And I was having such a good time writing this. It was just so much fun. And I realized everything I had written prior to this during COVID was really dark. I didn't intend for it to be, but it was
Yeah.
really dark. And this piece completely got me out of that because it was just so much fun. As a matter of fact, I was having so much fun writing this piece that I kind of was sad when the final bar line went on it. It was like, gosh, I hate to see this come to an end because it was just so much fun. But anyway, you get an idea of this section of it. So the next part of it, uh, with the pictures that he took, were pictures of the old towns that were bypassed when the interstate highway system came in. And so I wanted to do something. I originally wrote this because they have a good harp player with the St. Louis Wind Symphony. There was a harp part, and then it struck me that really a lot of this was in the American Southwest, and I wondered if those harp parts could be played on acoustic guitar instead.
Ooh.
And by doing that, it completely changed the nature of all of this. And I just love how it turned out. Trying to depict these old towns, home towns of people, and the feelings that going home have for people. I did that through just a very simplicity of melody and harmony, these guitar arpeggios, and also using what I like to call nostalgia chords. So here's a little example of that. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Trying to pull at the heartstrings a little bit, and I had such a nice time writing it. It was just a kind of an emotional release. The next section, we were looking at what was best, probably Route 66 was best known for, was all the quirky attractions, um, crazy attractions, ridiculous things, and some wonderful things. And in this section, I like to call it the attractions, the weird, the wonderful, and the wacky. And I was trying to come up with an idea musically. What is the overriding similarity between all of these things. And I finally came up with it. They're all, you could describe them as being offbeat. And I thought, well, musically, that has something too. So actually, this music, this section, we won't play all of it, but it sounds like it changes meter and it changes tempo. It does not. If you're conducting it in the same 4/4 time, even though the musicians are playing in 3/4 time. In other words, it's offbeat. And so it's a little bit of an inside joke for the conductors and for the audience. And I just put in a lot of stereotypical prototypes just for fun. And so you can hear a little bit of what this weird, wacky, wonderful attractions kind of sounds like here. We'll just play a little bit of it. It's uh it's kind of crazy. And of course, you had to have a little ragtime. I mean, Scott Joplin's from St. Louis. That's where his home was. So that's on Route 66. So you have to kind of put that into. So it's a lot, just a variety of things. And of course, the pictures in the YouTube video that accompany it show all of these things, which is really kind of fun. One day, as I was writing this, I was actually, my husband and I were filling up his truck at the gas station. And as we pulled in, I had this thought, and Paula, you'll remember this. There was a time when you pulled into the gas station, they were full service gas stations, by the way,
Yeah.
and you ran over a little hose that made a bell sound, and the attendant came running out. And I
Ah.
had thought of this, and I said, do you remember that? And he said he's younger than we are. And he said, I do remember that. And I thought, that would be a real interesting way to start the last part of this piece, because you have to fill up for gas before you finish your
Right.
trip. And I listened to an app of a fuel bell pump, and I found out how I could figure out how to actually replicate it. So the fuel pump takes us to filling up our tank, and we're off to finish the piece. Serendipitously, Al Jolson's California Here I Come came into public domain that year. And I
Whoa.
was able to use the first few notes of it as a fanfare. So here's just the beginning of that last section. And we settle back into the road trip. So as you can hear, it's really kind of a soundtrack to a movie that was never made.
Oh, what a beautiful description. And I'm so glad that you approached it this way, because we got to see the creative process and also your incredible imagination. And that's exactly what I want directors who are looking at your scores to see. The whys of the music. Why did you do this? Well, there was this little germinal idea that made it all come to pass. I can't wait to hear the whole piece in its entirety.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing it again with some groups this year. It would be the premiere performances of pieces, especially when you do something like I'd never put an acoustic guitar in a band piece before. It's like, will that work? Is
Yeah.
the balance? There were several things in this piece. The fuel bell pump. Is it going to sound right in real life? I was just amazed how well it all worked, and that was really. It may have been a result of really good rehearsals on the part of the group in St. Louis and their musical director. But I'm looking forward to doing it with several groups this year, and I'll be doing it with the Alachua County Honor Band in Gainesville in a few weeks, and so that'll be the next time I have a chance to do it, and I'll see if all of these things work as well with them. But you know, it's such a joy to be able to, and all musicians should feel this way, because whether you're writing music or performing music, you're creating something, a moment, out of thin air, basically. And of course, when you're writing it, you're literally creating it out of thin air. And so even during the whole pandemic situation, which I know we're all pretending is over these days, it's still, I sit here in my office, I look out the window, and ideas come. And it's a great way to, I'm never bored. I'm never lonely in terms of, like, I wish I could do this and that because I've got nothing to do. It's like there's always something more to do. And it's such a wonderful way to be able to spend your time, hopefully creating something that people will enjoy, and also being able to do it in a way that it just brings a fulfillment and enrichment to my life, to be able to share that with others. And of course, see, I live right on Route 66. I mean, I can see Route 66 from my
Wow.
house. And so since I moved to Normal, Illinois in 1991, it's like, oh, wow, this is where Route 66 is. It goes right through town. So writing a piece like this was not much of a stretch.
Well, thank you so much. I wish every time I do one of these, I wish I had hours and hours to really, look inside your creative process. But the little view that you've given us is just golden. And I thank you so much for that. And I know I speak for all of those in my profession, how much joy your music has given us over the years, and look forward to much, much more. So
I remember the first one 25 plus years ago. It was 21 people in the Ramada Inn in Elkhart, Indiana. Wow.
CSI to me is like going and having family time with some of your best friends. Even though your first time, you may not know anybody, but when you leave, you know everybody.
If when school's out, you sort of have time to do it, you have the time. And also, it's not expensive. And that's another way that our servant leadership is expressed. We're saying, come on, come join us. It's an elite group that's not elite.
If you want an opportunity to truly deepen your practice, to truly think about what you're bringing to the stage and think about how we can get better at it, which is, I think, in the heart, what do we want? For the good of our students, for the good of ourselves, for the good of our longevity in the profession. CSI is much more than that booster shot. CSI is that salve that's going to shore us up.
I tell everybody it is a must do. That if you enjoy going to your state conference, that's great. This is like your state conference on steroids. It is so tailor-made for the people who attend that you just have to do it.
The intimacy of CSI is unmatched. Small groups, 20, 25 in a group, and with the clinician, it's highly interactive, conversational. The growth and learning doesn't happen one directional, it's multi-directional stuff. And it's not just the clinics, it's afterwards, it's in between, it's the meals, it's the sharing of stories with each other. And so the engagement is at an incredibly high level, and every person is valued and treated like royalty at CSI.
When you step on the campus at Bethel, you suddenly go, wow, yes, it's a small world and there's people from all over the place, but it's a family. And you have literally band gods there that are doing presentations, and they come and sit down and have dinner with you and truly want to talk with you and chat with you and know really what's going on.